Andre! Oh! Journalist!
I'm hit, but escape the car, and with producer Dominic van Heerden, we make our way down the embankment.
Where are...
Camera operator Richie Mockler has taken 2 rounds to his body armour, but is still stuck in the car. He runs for it in a hail of bullets.
Hello, I'm Paul Barry. Welcome to Media Watch. And that was a UK Sky News team in a terrifying brush with death after they got caught in a suspected Russian ambush last week on the outskirts of Kiev. Escaping their car as bullets fizzed around them, they ran for their lives and took shelter in a nearby warehouse, where hours later they were rescued by local police.
We were lucky, but thousands of Ukrainians are not. And every day, this war gets worse here.
And that is an understatement. Thousands of soldiers and civilians are feared dead, more than 1 million people have fled the country, and Ukrainian towns and cities are under siege as the bombardment rages on. But alongside the chaos and horror, an information war is also being waged, a battle for hearts and minds. And tonight, in the Media Watch special, we'll look at that info war, which may determine how long Ukraine can survive, and perhaps even who wins. And as US defence expert Peter Singer told Media Watch, the result of that war is already in.
Ukraine has not just been winning the information war, they've won it. They've set the narrative of how this war will be interpreted both inside Ukraine, but also the wider world. Think about it this way. When Switzerland and Monaco are joining in on the sanctions against Russia, you've lost.
And if one man is responsible for that important victory, it's Ukraine's 44-year-old president, Volodymyr Zelensky. A comedian and actor who once won Dancing with the Stars, he's grown into his role as military leader and global hero.
He told the Americans he needed ammo, not a ride to safety. And thanks to his resolute leadership, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is being hailed around the world.
And in the midst of his more urgent messages, he's used humour to slap down rumours that he's on the run.
As you can see, I'm here. We love jogging, but now is not the time for cardio exercise.
A year ago, Zelensky was criticised for shutting down 3 pro-Russian TV stations inside Ukraine. But since the war began, he's been praised for harnessing the power of social media with a stream of messages and defiant selfies that have been viewed many millions of times. And as Dr. Ian Garner, an expert in Russian war propaganda, told Media Watch,
and he is doing just a phenomenal job of it.
But he's not doing it single-handed. There is a team behind him, and
they're winning this hands down. There is no question around it. What they've done is put together this really slick, savvy series of videos that are based around ordinary people at war, that are based around playing on audiences' sympathies around seeing images of civilians, suffering Ukrainians, and especially watching Russian language speakers suffer. The way they're doing this is just so clever, unlike the Russian campaign, which has just been lumbering and slow.
Ukraine's social media campaign has used tales of heroism and defiance to unify the nation, gain support from the West, and allow Ukraine to stay in the fight. And this one, of soldiers on Snake Island throwing down the gauntlet to a Russian ship, is one of the most popular. Zelensky awarded those soldiers posthumous medals after they died when the Russian ship opened fire, only for the world to be told a few days later that they're actually alive and well.
Snake Island soldiers who told Russian warship to go yourself are alive and well.
Another smash hit online is the legendary fighter pilot who single-handedly shot down a string of Russian planes. The exploits of the Ghost of Kiev were set to music by the Ukrainian Defence Ministry and shared around the world, with videos of the pilot viewed more than 9 million times on Twitter and 200 million times on TikTok, while he was mentioned in Facebook groups reaching some 700 million people. And although it's now been revealed that the footage in the first and most popular clip was actually fake and from a popular video game, the myth lives on.
This is a powerful story. There's something that is just inherently appealing about the idea of this lone fighter pilot machine. And this is a story that doesn't really seem to come from any factual basis. There doesn't seem to be any proof behind it whatsoever. But what I can tell you is it's significant enough that today I've seen a couple of takedowns of it on Russian news sources, on the major newspapers. So they're taking it seriously, right?
But we have also seen examples of genuine heroism. One of the most widely shared social media clips shows this lone man blocking a Russian tank. Another shows a cheeky driver pulling up alongside a Russian tank that had run out of fuel.
Сломались, пацаны. Сломались. Можно оттащить на Россию обратно.
And another viral video shows a Ukrainian woman berating a Russian soldier.
Пришли на нашу землю. Какого хера вы пришли с оружием к нам? Возьмите семечки, положите сырыми, чтобы хоть подсолнухи росли, когда вы здесь ляжете.
More recently, we've had this Russian soldier being given a cup of tea by the people he's come to conquer and crying as he phones home to mum.
Говори, мама, говори, говори.
As Ian Garner says, scenes like that play to the narrative of innocent, untrained Russian soldiers sent to the slaughter.
It's a powerful image of lost boys going to fight war. And in Russia especially, it's a particularly powerful image because memories of the wars in Afghanistan in the 1980s and in Chechnya in the early 2000s in particular are still very strong. And those wars were dominated ultimately by images seeping back home of young boys being killed for no reason.
But not all these heroic Ukrainian posts are to be trusted. The ghost of Kiev is certainly a myth. The Snake Island soldiers are still alive. And how about the army's laser-sniffing cat?
This is Mikhail, the Panther of Kharkiv, who single-handed exposed the location of 4 snipers, which ended in their deaths.
That is also make-believe. The picture's from 2018, and despite what Hollywood tells you, snipers don't use laser dots. And what about these tweeted pictures of a Ukrainian girl supposedly confronting a Russian soldier? That claim is also false. If you look at what she's wearing, it's clear she's not in wintry Ukraine. She's a Palestinian girl, Ahed Tamimi, yelling at an Israeli soldier a decade ago. So, does it matter if some of these emotive stories are fake news?
Morally and ethically on our part, that's a big question. But for Zelensky, it doesn't matter. For Zelensky, what is important is that he is bringing the nation together, because it's very clear at this point that Putin's military leaders thought that the country would collapse. And what we're seeing is that that just isn't happening.
And there are arguably bigger lies on Putin's side. Russians are being told there is no war and that their soldiers are restoring peace to Ukraine, a country being run by Nazis. This front page from Heroism, a popular Russian paper, shows a resident in the separatist city of Donetsk in front of an apartment damaged by Ukrainian shells, saying,
"We're tired of living in fear."
And here is Russia's 24-hour news channel last week.
Подконтрольные Украине территории охватывает хаос. Целые регионы оказались во власти нацистских батальонов, которые...
И вот нацистский почерк уже в действии. Пляжи минируют.
Видели, бомбы поставили. Дебилы,
При этом местных жителей никто ни о чем не предупреждал.
And the Nazi theme runs through much of the Russian media, even though Ukraine's President Zelensky is a Jew. Here's the front page of Moskovsky Komsomolets, harking back to World War II atrocities, with a picture of a German SS battalion, which supposedly contained Ukrainian volunteers, shooting Soviet prisoners at Babi Yar in 1941. But it's what the Russian media doesn't show as much as what it does. There's little or no footage of dead soldiers or civilians, or of protests in Russia, or of the devastating bombing and damage. And when state-owned NTV showed the missile that hit Kharkiv's Freedom Square, they insisted Ukrainians were bombing themselves.
Президент Владимир Зеленский обвинил в атаке Россию, однако вскоре эта версия была опровергнута на специально созданном интернет-ресурсе «Война с фейками». Судя по траектории прилета ракеты, удар был нанесен с северо-запада, где нет российских вооруженных сил.
So, do Russians believe what they're being told? Well, yes, especially the older generation who rely on state TV for their news, like this pensioner who talked to the BBC last week.
A lot of what they say on TV, it's truth. It's true.
How do you know?
Well, you know, when I read in in a foreign newspaper that, you know, Russians bomb Kharkov and so on. So I know that it's not true because they promised not to do this and they will never do this.
And out on the street, among ordinary Russians, France 24 found a similar story.
The fault lies with Ukrainian politicians. Vladimir Putin is doing what he can to help out.
But there are some independent media who have tried to tell the truth. Novaya Gazeta is an opposition newspaper whose most famous journalist, Anna Polikovskaya, was shot dead outside her apartment in 2006 after reporting fearlessly on the war in Chechnya. And it has been telling it like it is.
Russia bombing Ukraine.
The editorial team at Novaya Gazeta recognizes that the war is madness. Novaya Gazeta does not recognize Ukrainians as enemies.
In the first few days of the war, Novaya Gazeta had 4.5 million views on its website, and it claims to reach 30 million people via social media. And last week, its Nobel Prize-winning editor-in-chief was defiant, telling The New Yorker,
"We received an order to ban the use of the words war, occupation, invasion. However, we continue to call war, war. We're waiting for the consequences. I think we're in for a very difficult period."
But its resistance did not last long. 2 days later, on 2nd of March, the paper gave in to the censor's demand, agreed to take down all its offending material and printed this double-page spread headed,
"This is not a war, but a special operation."
The only other option was to be shut down altogether, the paper told its readers. And that's what's happened to radio station Echo of Moscow, whose editor-in-chief calls it martial law for the media, and told America's PBS,
"I don't think we'll get back on the radio, even though we'll fight this in the courts. But there's still social media, there's still Google, and you know, we still have USB sticks you can put recordings on."
And Russia's only independent TV station, TV Rain, which broadcasts on cable, website and YouTube, with a claimed 6.2 million monthly active audience, has faced similar pressure.
We understand that there is a military censorship in Russia right now. We understand that they're blocking everyone who tries to deliver alternative facts, alternative information, alternative from what this government is saying. So but I don't know when they will try to ban us, but we are still working on air.
But 2 days later, TV Rain also bowed to the inevitable and shut up shop, with one of the founders, Natalia Sindeyeva, declaring, which means no war, before leading the team out of the studio, and for some, out of the country too. Viewers were then left with a black and white broadcast of Tchaikovsky's ballet Swan Lake, which is a coded message that many Russians would understand, because when Soviet leaders died, this is all you'd see on state TV. Days before that, Ivan Kolpakov, editor-in-chief of another independent media outlet, Meduza, had told the BBC from their base in Latvia that they faced a similar fate.
I don't think that we have much time left, to be honest, in the country. I think that we're going to be blocked in a few days, maybe in a few hours.
And on Friday morning, that too was coming to pass.
Russia's federal censor confirms that it is now requiring internet service providers nationwide to restrict access to Meduza, the news outlet you are reading right now.
Almost every other independent outlet has also been shut down. Radio Free Europe has stopped broadcasting from Russia, and access to the BBC website has also been blocked, with the broadcaster bringing back shortwave radio to cover the war. Meanwhile, harsh new censorship laws have made it a criminal offence, punishable by up to 15 years in jail, to spread misinformation, that is, telling the truth about what's happening. And fear of these new laws has caused many independent Russian and Western journalists to leave or cease reporting. So, with the media crackdown almost complete, is the Russian public getting any real news of how the war is going? Until the weekend, the answer was yes, especially for young people, because raw footage of the war and much of that Ukrainian messaging was still getting through.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's there on Instagram. It's there on Telegram. There are Telegram channels that have millions of subscribers that are operating from, certainly some from outside of Russia, and I suspect some from within Russia as well. And the information there is free and unfettered. Anything goes. Some of it's real, some of it's not, but all of it is anti-war.
But how long that will last is unclear. According to local Russian journalists, police in Moscow are now stopping people in the streets demanding to see their phones and reading their messages. For the moment, Telegram is still working, but TikTok has announced it will stop new videos being posted inside Russia while it assesses the risk to users from the new censorship law. And this weekend, the Russians shut down Twitter and Facebook after severely restricting access. Meanwhile, there are other small ways for news of what's really happening in Ukraine to seep through. US defense expert Peter Singer told Media Watch.
It's been everything from individuals reaching out to Russian parents on VK, the Russian version of Facebook, to let them know, hey, your son, he's been taken prisoner. Wanted to let you know that, but also if you want to see him back, maybe you ought to go protest against Putin. Kind of these individual efforts.
And more dramatically, the hacking collective Anonymous claimed today that it had hacked into a number of Russian state TV services and streaming channels and broadcast footage of the war to unsuspecting viewers. But even if the truth does hit home, and there are now claims that Russia may cut itself off from the internet, what good could it do? Could protests in Russia over the war or the economy make Putin pull back or even force him from power? Yesterday, more than 4,000 protesters in 53 cities were arrested by police, bringing the total to more than 13,000 since the war began. But protests will become even more dangerous as Putin cracks down harder. And even if Ukraine could win the information war inside Russia, which now seems unlikely, would it be enough to win or end the war back home?
Very pessimistically, I'm going to say no. I think we are at the point. Look at what's happened in Belarus over the last couple of years since the presidential elections there. Look at the way that the Chinese government has been controlling its people. Look at what's happened in Hong Kong, where we saw really huge demonstrations in public and really savvy, again, use of social media to organize people. And ultimately, none of that really worked out for the pro-democratic factions. So I think, sadly, we're in a situation in Russia where we are beyond people power really mattering. What matters is money, the ability of the government to continue to wage the war, and the willingness of the government to implement really severe crackdowns against its own population.
And with that gloomy prediction, that's all from us for tonight. There's more on our website. You can stream or download the programme. And don't forget Media Bites every Thursday. But for now, until next week, goodbye.